Consider this drawing. We have A, which is 4, 2, over 4 up 2. We have B, which is at -2, -2. And so the question is this point C over here, which is at 5, -4, is that on the perpendicular bisector of AB? Well, first of all, you'd have to know what a perpendicular bisector is. So if you think about this segment AB, let me draw that. So if you think about this segment AB, it looks something like this. So that's segment AB. And C being on the perpendicular bisector would mean that this goes like this and that it's perpendicular and the bisector. Well, it looks close, but the only way to be sure is to find the midpoint, to find this midpoint of AB. So you find the midpoint of AB by adding the two x's together. So -2 and 4 added together and divided by 2. And then add the two y's, -2 and 2 added together divided by 2. If you do that, you end up with 1, 0. So it's close. You can see it's real close to 1, 0 just from my drawing. So you find the midpoint. And then what you do is you find the slope of that segment, C in the midpoint. And then you find the slope of AB, and you see if those are negative reciprocals. So let me do that. So here's the midpoint, and there's C. I'm using the slope formula. So the -4 minus 0 on top, 5 minus 1 on the bottom. Do the math. -4 over 4 equals -1. That's the slope right there. What that is the slope of the midpoint in C. Now I'm going to do this midpoint of AB. So if you do the midpoint of AB, that's 2 minus -2 on the top, so I'm subtracting the y's and then subtract the x's on the bottom. You get 4 over 6, which is 2/3. So the question is, are those negative reciprocals? Well, they're not. So the answer is, yeah, it's close, but no, those are not. Point C is not on the perpendicular bisector. It's close, but it's not. A negative reciprocal, the negative reciprocal of 2/3 would have been -3/2. So the negative reciprocal of -1 would have been +1. You know that two things are negative reciprocals if when you multiply them together, you get -1. And when you multiply these together, you do not get -1. So those are not perpendicular bisectors. So maybe a bisector, but not perpendicular bisector. So that's how you do that. So review that. So you find the midpoint of this segment, and then you find the slope of that segment and the slope of that segment. If when you multiply the segment, those slopes together, you get -1, then you know that it's a perpendicular bisector. I'll give you an example. Let's suppose that the slope of one of the segments, I don't know, was -5/8. And the other one was 8 over 5. Well, that's what a negative reciprocal looks like. And when you multiply them together, you get -1. So two slopes are negative reciprocals. Some books say opposite reciprocal. Same thing. They are negative reciprocals if when you multiply them together, you get -1. You multiply the top, you multiply the bottom, you reduce. If when you multiply them together, you get -1, you know that they're negative reciprocals. Plus, you could just look. A negative reciprocal is flipped and has an opposite sign. That's how you do this. See ya.